This is a Dreamcast disc and is for use only on a Dreamcast unit. Playing this disc on a hi-fi or other audio equipment can cause serious damage to its speakers.
Dreamcast, up to 6 billion players.
Welcome back to the stage of history.
Why don't we play together?
Hey, it's time to make some crazy money. Are you ready? Here we go!
Please stop this disc now.
Hello and welcome to episode 27 of the Dreamcast Junkyard DreamPod. I say episode 27, I probably should be calling it episode 26.5 because this will be a slightly shorter episode of the DreamPod, and it will be hosted by myself, Tom, and my good friend and co-host, Caleb. How you doing, Caleb?
Hello, I'm doing fine. Hey, everybody, how's it going?
Are you expecting a reply?
Rob? Gargaman? Gaz?
Scott,
where are they?
It's just me and you.
Oh my god.
It's like an echo chamber. Yeah, so like I say, this is more like episode 26.5 rather than a full-blown episode 27. However, we hope to entertain and educate you, just like the BBC do on occasion. Maybe slightly lofty claims. We're not on the same level as BBC. However, we're free of advertising, so I suppose we're on the same level in some ways. Anyway, enough waffle from me. Caleb, we'll begin as we always do, and we shall talk about what we've been playing on the old Dreamcast or on current gen or other systems. What have you been doing?
I've been doing a lot of stuff. Mostly, though, I've been trying to get my stuff cleaned, because my god, if you don't store your stuff correctly, it is going to corrode and whatnot. So, unfortunately, I found out that one of my arcade sticks had gotten, all of a sudden, just seemingly randomly, had gotten yellowing. Which is strange, because I have 3 of them, and they've all been stored the same way. Yet, all of a sudden, one just all of a sudden completely yellowed. I'm not sure what happened.
So have you managed to get rid of the yellowing? Because
No, not yet. I've got to do the whole process, I think, and that includes taking it completely apart and just either using the pre-made stuff that you can buy online or using your method that you showed on the Dreamcast Junkyard, which everybody should look up.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because I've got the arcade twin sticks, which do have quite a lot of yellowing on them, and I know I did the thing with the Dreamcast shells with the hair serum, but I'm not entirely sure whether that works on the arcade sticks or the twin sticks, just because they're made of metal and they've got the white kind of powder coating on them. So I'm not entirely sure if it works on that or if it's just for the plastic. So I'd be quite interested to see how that turns out for you.
Yes. And in addition, I found out I'm completely out of the loop. And this was years ago. Somebody did a translation of a Japanese game that I want to do a video on. And I wanted to play it back in 2010 and see if I could play it. Because it's an action game. It's called Frame Grid. Apparently, somebody did a translation for it. So now most of the menus and whatnot are in English, and it's a lot easier to play.
I'd like to ask you about this, because I know about a translation. I have the Japanese version of the game, and it's from Software, the guys who did Bloodborne and all the Dark Souls games, and it does have quite a similar style when it comes to the menus and things. It's got kind of like a gothic style. See, I don't understand how people are actually playing it on. Is it so? I mean, sorry, I know I'm waffling here. How does the translation project work? Is it a ROM that you use on an SD card, or
no? This is a full. It's just there's probably an SD version. I'm just working off the disc version.
Okay, so you burn it to a disc and then play it in your Dreamcast.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking maybe that it was something that
It's a legally gray area, I would say, even if you own the Japanese game like I do.
Yeah, I mean, I played the Japanese version a little bit, but as I say, I can't really understand what's happening. To me, it kind of struck me as apologies, but a poor man's version of Virtual On. So,
yep.
Anything else, Caleb? Anything else you've been playing or experimenting with?
I've been messing around with just a bunch of stuff, but unfortunately, I get a lot of my stuff secondhand, and there is absolutely zero Dreamcast games around my area right now. So I guess that says something about the video game market, because normally after the Christmas season, you can find people's old games in the thrift stores and whatnot. Not so this year. Hardly anything.
It seems then that upstate New York is quite similar to down country UK, because where I live in Southampton, there is nothing, absolutely nothing Dreamcast related in any of the shops you go in, even the second-hand shops, things like that. I've been playing mainly on my PS4, to be honest, and on my Vita. I recently got a game called Rainbow Moon, which is an RPG for the Vita, and I don't like RPGs. In fact, I'm pretty much a non-RPG player, and this game has captivated me. I've been playing it non-stop for the last week or so, and yeah, it's perfect for a handheld because you can literally just like shove your face into the screen and just forget about the world around you. It's a really good game, and I would recommend it to anyone who's got a Vita. I know it came out on the PS4 last week, I believe.
What kind of main mechanics are there? Is it just the standard kind of Japanese RPG Final Fantasy type system?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. But I think basically because of the artwork, I'm not entirely sure that it originates from Japan. I think it's a Western RPG in the style of a Japanese RPG, just because of the artwork that goes with it. It's very Amiga-ish, if that makes sense, i.e. not very well drawn, certainly in the menus. But when you're actually playing it, it's from like an isometric 3D-ish view. Do you remember the old FIFA International Soccer games on the Mega Drive? So Genesis, that kind of weird...
Sorry, I'm American, so none of us who care about soccer.
Okay, fair enough.
Do I remember an Amiga game?
I do forget who I'm speaking to occasionally, sorry.
No, I'm a deprived youth. Everybody who doesn't know, my background is that my parents made the somewhat weird decision of not allowing me to have any video games at all, which of course means now that I'm an adult, I own tons of video games.
Yeah, likewise.
That's. I think that's usually how it works. So my first console that I owned, aside from the Game Gear, was actually a Dreamcast console in college. Yeah, I've gone back. I've gotten a bunch of them. You know, I have a Mattel Aquarius, if we want to talk about games on the Mattel Aquarius, Tom. But yeah, no, I've got a lot of, but in the mainstream stuff. So stuff like there's this whole generation of stuff, like the Amiga generation and whatnot, that I just don't, I'm not really involved with, unfortunately.
So you're trying to tell me you didn't have a Spectrum?
No, I did not. I did not have a ZD Spectrum or whatever you people call it.
Did the Spectrum even come out in America?
Oh, no, I have. You know what I have, though? I have the ColecoVision controller. So it's the joystick with all the ColecoVision games in it. Speaking
of ColecoVision, shall we talk about that?
Oh, sure.
For those people listening, I'm pretty sure you already know about this, but... The ColecoVision Chameleon. This is completely off topic as far as Dreamcast is concerned, but I thought this was a really interesting story just because I like to talk about interesting stories that I see online. So basically, the ColecoVision Chameleon is a system that is an evolution, shall we say, of the retro VGS, and that is the thing that is a retro system in the style of the Ouya, crossed with a Retron.
They specifically said, though, that they were going to be able to have, like, they were going to have a much broader catalog of games that could be played on this system.
Yeah, but, I mean, they're all through, like, cartridge, and it's not online-enabled, which is, you know, it's a noble effort from the retro VGS guys.
I understand what they said. Like, when I first got the, I believe it was one of the D&D games, and it was the Neverwinter Nights 2 collection, and this was the Platinum Collection. And so I got that game, and, like, it was the Platinum Collection. I didn't have internet at the time.
Yeah.
So I assumed that I was only getting games where, so I put the Platinum Collection in, and it didn't work. And actually, the Platinum Collection of the game required an online patch, which I had to mess around and finally get. But, so that I understand the frustration, because back in the day, games at least would work mostly. There would be bugs and stuff, but, like, if a game came out, it would work. And I think that's kind of what they're reaching at, too. It's like a cartridge game where you don't have to update it, and it's just a game, and it's finished, and it will work when you plug it in your system.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, it's a noble idea. However, apparently this last week they had the ColecoVision Chameleon at the New York Toy Fair on display as a prototype, and somebody noticed that it looked a hell of a lot like they put a SNES Junior.
Wait a minute, I've seen the pictures.
Oh my God, it's former governor Jesse Ventura.
And conspiracy theorist.
I visited the New York Game Show, and I saw it myself. I saw that they were playing games on it. So how do you explain that, Tom?
Well,
I saw the proof with my own eyes.
some people more learned than I am from the Atari Age forums have analysed the images and said that this is quite clearly a Super Nintendo Junior inside an Atari Jaguar shell.
So wait a minute. You're saying this is some sort of conspiracy?
Possibly. Make your own mind up. Have a look at the images on the internet.
If people are interested, the Atari Age actually had an excellent little write-up where somebody actually dissected a Nintendo and put it in there, and it looked remarkably like how the setup was at the game show.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, they said that they would have a working prototype at the New York the New York Toy Show, and then this is what they actually arrive with. It's quite misleading.
I guess it's a loose definition of prototype.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously wasn't there, and I can't really comment from on the floor kind of perspective. But yeah, it's very fishy, shall we say? There was no power light. There was the controllers went into the case, where you couldn't see where the controllers were actually plugged in. It was meant to have a HDMI out on the back, but if you look at the back of it, it's literally just a SNES Junior.
It was plugged into a CRT TV as well.
Yes, yeah. That's basically one of the main things that people have got an issue with. It's an interesting story. If you want more information on this, you just go to Google and type ColecoVision Chameleon and then Super Nintendo or whatever, and you'll find them. Pat the NES Punk did one on his CU podcast where on YouTube, where they basically go through the entire thing, and it's quite interesting. Anyway, Caleb, let's move on from that, and let's move on to our first topic of the day, and that is, what's the best scrolling beat-em-up on the Dreamcast? Indeed, are there any scrolling beat-em-ups on the Dreamcast? This is something I've been pondering about for a while, because I was playing on my old favourite Streets of Rage 2 on the Retron 5 with my girlfriend the other day, and I was thinking to myself, why aren't there any games like this on the Dreamcast? Now, we've spoken, I'm pretty sure, in brief about Streets of Rage 4.
Oh, yeah. There was a couple of screenshots about what that game was supposed to look like.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been quite interesting to see a polygonal Streets of Rage game on the Dreamcast. And like you say, there are some screenshots floating around on the internet. And yeah, basically that was cancelled. But there were other games in that mould that you can actually play. And I've got a very short list here of games. So we've got things like Sword of the Berserk, Guts Rage. We've got Zombie Revenge, Dynamite Cop or Dynamite Decker 2. And then, obviously, on the old Sega Smash Pack, we've got the actual real deal Streets of Rage, Golden Axe, and I've put Altered Beast on here as well. I'm not sure if that actually qualifies as a...
I'm not quite sure. I will say, though, that's the Streets of Rage with horribly emulated music.
Oh, God, it's horrendous. I did an article on the Dreamcast Junkyard main site maybe about 2 weeks ago about how bad the emulated sound is, and it's just like MIDI sound. It's like ear-bleedingly bad.
Yeah. It's just, it's poor emulation. Of those that you mentioned, I would have to say Sword of the Berserk. It's a hack and slash game, and I just love that game so much. I beat it completely, even though it's a very, very difficult game. The gameplay is just so satisfying when you swing the big dragon sword and you shoot somebody with your cannon. It's amazing.
For me, it's the story mode that is really cool. I know that it's kind of lambasted because it has quite lengthy cutscenes, which do take up the vast majority of the game. But I think when you do actually get control of Guts and you are basically lopping heads off and just basically kicking ass with this massive sword, it is possibly one of the most satisfying scrolling beat-em-ups on the Dreamcast. Of these other ones, though, Caleb, what do you think about Zombie Revenge?
Zombie Revenge is it didn't enthrall me as much because I went through there. It's got its connections to House of the Dead and whatnot. It's interesting and it's somewhat fun, but I only played it by myself, and I just couldn't get past the one. I think it's the fourth or third boss in, and I just never got really past that part. There's a lot of interesting facets to it, and I'm sure it'd be much funner to play it with, the two-player thing. On
the subject of it being related to House of the Dead 2, when I first read the reviews of it, I assumed that it would be basically the House of the Dead 2 in kind of third person. So when I first got it and started playing it, I was like, this isn't House of the Dead. What are they talking about? I mean, so can you shed any light on that? I mean, what's the connection with House of the Dead 2?
It's very tenuous.
Okay.
I know that again, I haven't played this in a long time, but I think they're supposedly members of the same group.
Okay.
And I believe the bad guy has something to do with gold, and the zombies and the monsters that you're fighting are supposedly somewhat related to the events of House of the Dead 2. Again, I don't know.
I mean, I should have looked into this.
It's tenuous because I don't remember it at all. and then of course Dynamite Deca 2. I mean, that's just super fun.
Yeah.
That's an arcadey as arcadey gets.
Yeah,
hitting people with fish and whatnot, and
it's basically, that's one of the first games I played on the Dreamcast. My friend got one. It was a Japanese one. He got a Japanese copy of this game with the system, and we played that constantly over and over and over again. And we, it was just because it was so ridiculous and it looked so good at the time. And actually, that said, a few weeks ago, Rob came to my house, and this is the game. The first game we played was Dynamite Cop. And it was just great fun. When you get to the end and you have to fight each other, yeah, it was just great fun.
In course, in the US, I'm interested to know if they did the same thing in the UK. In the US, the first game, which was released, I believe, on the Saturn, and I know it was released on, that was actually Die Hard.
Yes,
and
that's
they
true,
actually.
Yeah.
So did they do that in the UK too?
Yeah, it was a Die Hard arcade. Yeah, same. I mean, it even has the same quick time events as you're going through levels. Where you have to press a certain button to punch somebody in the face. Yeah,
chong.
So, I mean, what do we think about? Should we include Streets of Rage and Golden Axe in this? Or
I would say there's one that you missed up, and that's of course the homebrew Beats of Rage.
Oh yes.
Yes, because there's a million versions of that, and a lot of them are on the Dreamcast. There's the everything from the ICP inspired Hatchet Ninjas to the Resident Evil Beats of Rage version. There's just a ton of them.
Caleb, I've got a bit of an admission to make. I've never actually played Beats of Rage.
It's interesting. It's basically like a straight up 2D beat 'em up. You walk from left to right. You beat up stuff. People mostly use sprites from all the great 2D fighters out there, and they're usually just a little bit of fun.
I've seen lots of screenshots of it. I mean, even things like isn't there an X-Men version?
I'm unaware of that, but I'm sure there is.
There's so many different versions of this game; it's ridiculous. But because I own a Mac and I can't really burn that much stuff with it that runs in the Dreamcast. And also, I'm an idiot, so even with a PC, I find myself burning multiple coasters.
Yeah, it was a real shame because back in the day, the Dreamcast Homebrews website was still up, and you could get all the versions that were had the very good burning. But now you'd have to kind of look around from a little bit. I think there is still a Beats of Rage main website where you can download most of them.
Yeah. I mean, because when I try and burn stuff, I use my girlfriend's Windows PC laptop, and I have a thing on there called Boot Dreams, which generally works quite well. But a lot of stuff, I burn it and then it just doesn't run. I'm just like, what am I doing wrong? I'm just a complete idiot. I
set up ImageWord, which is a bit of a pain. But yeah, ever since I did that, I haven't burnt any coasters at all. They've all worked.
Anyway, so are we? We decided on what's the best? Is it Sword of the Berserk? Or?
I'm Sword of the Berserk it's an amazing game. I would have to say that's the best.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with you there. So anyone who's listening who likes Zombie Revenge or Dynamite Cop, we apologise, but we both like Sword of the Berserk. So
if you have more than one player, then obviously I would go with Dynamite Cop. Definitely over Zombie Revenge every day. I still remember how I got my copy. I went to a thrift shop and I specifically had told the lady, please, if there's any Dreamcast games, just let me know. And she didn't. And just one day I wandered in and there's just a big stack of Dreamcast games there in the wrong section. So, I went up to the music section. I was able to get that and a bunch of other games. So that's how I got my version of Dynamite Cop.
To be honest, I'd be quite interested to know how you actually spot them, because in the UK, if you go into a charity shop or a thrift shop, you'll see the Dreamcast. You can spot them a mile away because it's light blue and they're quite thick, and you can see them. Here
in the US, it's a little bit different because a lot of times, because of GameStop's lovely policies, they won't have any of the cases or anything, so they'll be in blank cases. Especially for this area, I think it's different from where you are. But you just have to. They usually have the little video game section, which is usually very picked over, and then you can also have the little just CD area where sometimes people who just don't know just put them in there. And yeah, so basically I just check those 2 sections and see. Usually because I don't know how your shops are set up, but they usually have the giant spinning racks of discs. That's usually the setup here in thrift shops.
Yeah, I was in a shop yesterday, actually, in fact, and I was looking for... I just went in just to have a look around, and they had an Xbox section, original Xbox, and there was a guy with his phone. He had his phone in his hand. He had one of the massive tablet phones.
Yeah, he was scanning the barcodes?
No, he had eBay open on his screen.
No, they go a step further here. They have barcode scanners that they actually scan the barcodes, and then they know if either they do it with books and video games, and they can scan it and they can see how much it's worth. And that's how they decide what to get. It's resellers.
Yeah.
So they don't care anything about the games or books, but if there's anything worth anything, they'll scan the barcode and then they'll just buy it via that.
That's insane. Yeah, this guy who was actually stood in front of the Xbox section when I got there, and he was stood there with eBay open, and he was looking up and down on his phone, I could see. And then he suddenly, as I kind of stood next to him, he grabbed one of the games off the shelf and put it under his arm. And I don't know what it was. So was it, was it something expensive? I don't know.
Here's the thing. Even back in 2010, here's where people say, "Oh, the video game market, it's a bubble. It's going to burst soon." I don't know, because it seems to be expanding. Because back in 2010, nobody was really looking for rare PS1, Xbox games. I could literally walk into the thrift shops, and there would just be a big wall of the PS2, Xbox, GameCube games, and all the rare, expensive games were still there, like Godzilla and whatnot. And now I go to the same shops, and those have been completely picked over. Anything worth anything has been taken. So it's very interesting that like people are saying, "Oh, it's a video game bubble. It's not going to happen." But even in later years, it's actually expanded into the newer generation games.
Yeah, totally. Even like things like the Vita. Like when you see some shops still have like a physical Vita section, and you'll see them there like looking on the phones and like grabbing the games off the shelves. The ones that are more expensive, and like things like Marvel vs. Capcom 3 for the Vita is quite uncommon. And there's a shop near me that had like 2 copies of it, and I went back the next day, it was gone. Both copies gone.
I mean, we can talk about this whole thing, like the one Wii U game that came out that everybody was speculating on. I forget the name of it. It wasn't a good game.
Helpful. Okay. Let's move on anyway, shall we, to the next section, and we're going to have a quick discussion about a game that maybe not many people in the UK have played. I'm not very sure about the US, but in June 2000, IGN said, "If you're one of those Dungeons and Dragons dorks or belong to the Society of Creative Anachronisms, then you will love this game, no matter what the reviewers say. But for the average gamer, Draconus is a fun little title whose shortcomings in graphics and other areas will warn you the further you get in." Now, Caleb, this game is called Draconus Cult of the Wyrm. In the UK, it's known as Dragon's Blood. I don't know why they actually changed the name. Does Draconus have like some kind of symbolism or meaning in the US?
I bet you they just didn't want to have blood in the title, because this was around that same time when, they're trying to rename stuff. No, I don't think anybody in the US knows what Draconus means. It's just, I think they just changed it to make it sound a little bit different. Either that, or maybe there was a copyright issue with a game that has similar title, and so they couldn't have dragon in the title.
If you look at the name, you've got Cult of the Wyrm, which is spelled in the Old English way, but there's no game that's called Cult of the Wyrm or has the word worm in it, in the UK.
Well, it's another word for dragon. So instead of having the word dragon in there, they would have 2 words that kind of meant dragon. I'm assuming that's what their thought process was. Yeah.
Anyway, Caleb, what's your experience with this game?
It's a fun little hack and slash. You walk around and you hit stuff, and there's the gameplay is okay. But like you said, it's a little bit shallow, but still fun. There's a lot of like really good dialogue from like the guy The girl, it's interesting because I think they were going for like the people who translated it. I think they were going for like a Evil Dead feel for the dialogue that was coming from the guy,
like a bit comedic kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, my history with the game is that I went to the shop that I used to go to when I was at college, and it was just there on the shelf. I didn't know anything about it. I'd never seen any reviews. That was the thing certainly in the UK, in the early days of the Dreamcast, games would just appear on the shelves before the magazines had come out, and you just wouldn't know what they were. And so I saw this game, Dragon's Blood. I had a look at the back of the box. I thought, that looks quite cool. Got it, took it home, and I was kind of in two minds. I thought, this is interesting, but I don't really like it. So I took it back about 2 days later and said something along the lines of, I don't like it, I want to change it. And they were like, okay. It's only in recent times when I've re-got it and replayed it that I actually kind of appreciate how good it really is. It's not perfect by any means. As you say, Caleb, the graphics are quite decent in places, but the environments, because you are allowed to wander around this, like in most of the levels, these massive open environments, because of I'm guessing the limitations of the Dreamcast, there's quite a lot of fogging, so you can't really see that far into the distance, and monsters will just literally appear out of the fog and start attacking you. That said, the controls are quite good, and the combat is quite reminiscent, for me anyway, of Ocarina of Time. It would have been better if you had the proper lock-on, so you could do backflips and like side jumps and things. But yeah, I mean, I quite liked it, and even though the jumping is quite floaty, I thought it was really good. Also, the guy who does the voiceover work for the the in between levels where he introduces the different stages is very good. I'm pretty sure that he was a film actor or something. Let me just quickly have a look and see who it was, because I'm pretty sure he's quite a big name actor who did that.
The old Parthem Empire was devastated by the Backlash. Just more than 100 years ago, the magical destruction ended mankind's golden age. Its magnificent cities gone, its mighty wizards and wise sages annihilated. Since the Backlash, life became cheap and peace hard to come by.
Yeah, so some of the voiceover work's really good, and the graphics are quite impressive. Certainly for the interiors.
George Takei, rather. I believe he was the voice of the king.
Oh wow, cool. So we've got George Takei in Draconus. We've got Leonard Nimoy in Seaman. Who else is going to pop up in different random Dreamcast games? Hi, this is Tom from the future, just interjecting in the podcast. I did actually look up who the guy is who plays the narrator in Dragon's Blood, or Draconus. His name was Tony J. He passed away, sadly, in 2006, but on his IMDb page, you will note that he was in things like Treasure Planet. He mainly did video game voiceover work, but interestingly, he also played the role of Supersonic in the 1993 Sonic the Hedgehog animated series. So there's a nice little factoid for you there. Anyway, back to the original show. Yeah, there was one level where you actually fought the Minotaur in this like floating castle, and I always remember that approach to the main castle being really impressive with the clouds floating above the ramparts of the castle. Yeah, it was a decent enough hack and slash. Any closing thoughts on that one, Caleb?
Not really. It just kind of reminds me that I need to really take a quick look at Record of Lodoss War and go and do a full review of that one, because I played that recently and it's just it's really fast. It's like a fast Diablo 1, and so I need to maybe give that another shot and see what's up with that.
Did you ever play a game called Silver?
Yes, I tried. That was a very Zelda-esque game, but it wasn't, for some reason, like the weird like Final Fantasy VII type graphics and stuff. It didn't capture my attention very well. Yeah, with the like pre-rendered backgrounds and the sort of small like polygonal characters. Yeah, maybe I'll give it a second chance though. It's been a while since I actually looked at that one. Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, back in the day, I would play these games and I'd put them on and I'd be like, oh, I don't really like this. It's a bit crap. But with like an older head, looking back at these games, I kind of appreciate them a bit more. So certainly things like Record of Lodoss War, I will give another chance. And also Silver again, I think I'll go back to and have a look at. And I think it's as you mature as a gamer, you kind of appreciate these games a little bit more. I was always of the mindset that Dreamcast games should be these big, bombastic arcade games. Yeah. And with hindsight, there probably are some games that we've brushed over or just like missed, over the years. So yeah, interesting thoughts. Anyway, as this is going to be quite a short episode, just because we've not got a lot of time left on our server for this month, I think we shall bring it to a close there, Caleb. Thank you very much for joining me. It's, as usual, been a pleasure. Is there anything you want to plug or give a shout-out to?
Speaking of Dungeons & Dragons stuff, I'm still doing video game stuff on my YouTube channel. That's Blandco. It's Blandco, Blandco on YouTube. I'm also doing some videos on Dungeons & Dragons type stuff, like pre-painted miniatures and some of the dungeon dressing and dungeon tile stuff you can buy and paint and whatnot.
Cool.
So take a look if you're interested in that. Take a look at my YouTube.
Excellent. On that subject, Caleb, did you actually manage to find any of those Gauntlet miniatures that you were looking for?
No, I found one that looked like it was a jester from like Gauntlet 2 or one of those games, but it's I gotta keep on going. I don't think I have any. But it is amazing I went through my miniatures. I found some that were actually from Diablo 2, and those are actually pretty rare as well. But no Gauntlet miniatures from that.
Yeah, for people who are listening who don't know what we're talking about, the Dreamcast launch of Gauntlet Legends, I believe, had certainly in the US had a promotion where they were giving away miniatures of the characters that were made of like pewter.
Yes, very low runs of the white metal pewter, which is the favored, yeah.
Incredibly uncommon, incredibly rare. So if you have some of those, keep hold of them, or actually let Caleb know, and he might take them off you potentially. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Yeah. So that'll do for this particular shortish episode. I've been Tom. That's been Caleb. And you can follow us on Twitter at Sega Junkyard, or you can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Dreamcast Junkyard. And of course, you can also go to the main Dreamcast Junkyard site, which is allthews.thedreamcastjunkyard.co.uk. And yeah, thank you as ever for listening and putting up with our rambling. And hopefully we'll see you on the next one. We will have a full complement of co-hosts. Not that you're not a good co-host, Caleb, of course.
I certainly wasn't one today.
Anyway, guys, thank you very much for listening. And if you like what you heard, then either go and listen to our back catalogue, or if you get the chance, go and give us a review on iTunes, because it would mean the world to us. But yeah, thanks very much for listening, and as ever, keep dreaming.
Please stop this disc now.